Brooke and Nathan, thank you so much. Good morning, friends, and welcome again to Palm Sunday worship, First Congo style. Today, not only do we celebrate Palm Sunday, we also consider the full arc of the week, knowing that the next time we all get together in this space, we will be in Easter. We will be in Easter because the Last Supper will have happened by next Sunday. The crucifixion will have already taken place by next Sunday, and the resurrection will be underway. And so today, we will look at a story that takes place after Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, but before his death and resurrection. Today, we look at his trial, and we consider the matter, the deeply spiritual issue of asking dangerously deep questions. You know, it seems that with each new generation, there's some new guidance on how to care for and parent children. Long ago, in some parts of the world apparently, it was considered wise and prudent to salt your baby. Rubbing salt all over a newborn's skin was thought to bring good luck to the child and to hurry along their ability to speak. Later on, people began to realize that not only was this useless, salting a baby as if you were trying to cure a slab of salmon was indeed harmful. Beyond babyhood, one generation has said spanking toddlers is good and helpful, while another generation has said it's harmful and counterproductive. One generation has said timeout is effective, while another generation believes it creates negative associations with silence. Nowadays, a very common parenting practice is what experts call the two positive choices approach. As opposed to the false choices of generations past, the eat your dinner or go to bed without dessert kinds of choices, the follow the rules or face the consequences approach, two positive choices looks like this. Okay, Billy, you need to brush your teeth before bed. Do you want to do that before you take your bath or afterwards? The idea is that presenting two choices, neither of which is a punishment, gives the child agency to direct the course of her life, but only, of course, to a certain extent. Because at the end of the day, we all know Billy's gonna wash his teeth. The kid may get a choice, but the parent is still in charge. I myself have used and suggested other parents use this approach because, well, it works. It works because, sure, this approach gives a child agency, but only on terms that the parent wants. The choice feels like autonomy, but in fact, it's just another means of control. It's one of the ways authorities have cared for or controlled people for ages. Take today's scripture reading, for example, one of history's greatest examples of an authoritative figure giving the people in his charge the illusion of choice. Here's how Mark tells the story. You can follow along in your bulletin if you like. At the festival, Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea, used to release a prisoner for the Israelites, anyone for whom they asked. Now a man called Barabbas was in prison with the insurrectionists who had committed murder during the insurrection. So the crowd came and began to ask Pilate to do for them according to his custom. Then he answered them, "Do you want me to release for you Jesus, the one they call King of the Jews?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that the chief priests had handed Jesus over. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have him release Barabbas for them instead. Pilate spoke to them again. "Then what do you wish me to do with the man you call the King of the Jews?" And they shouted back, "Crucify him." Pilate asked them, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify him." So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas for them. And after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. At first glance, we get the sense here of Pilate as a measured and judicious leader, a gracious governor, ready to release a prisoner for the Passover celebration his subjects observed. Is it going to be Barabbas or Jesus? At first glance, it seems that this vicious crowd is responsible for Jesus' imprisonment and death. Pilate, meanwhile, could wash his hands clean, because it was they who made the decision, they who had the autonomy, they who had the choice. But of course, upon closer investigation, what Pilate does is no more gracious, no more compassionate than what despots, fascists, and empires have done since ever. Narrow the decisions, condition the imagination, and control the people. To be sure, somebody was going to remain in Roman custody and likely be executed. It was just a question of whom. Pilate made the Judeans feel like they had a choice when, in fact, it was he and the empire he represented that remained in charge. You know, while the stakes aren't always life and death, so much of our lives looks like this. So much of the world we navigate gives us narrow choices that are meant to condition our imaginations and to control our behaviors. While we adults can choose when or even if we want to brush our teeth, the authority figures in our lives ask things like, do you want to skip your vacation time and keep on working? Or do you want to take your vacation time and then afterwards sort through the exhausting amount of work that's piled up while you were away? And so many of us either choose not to take the vacation, or we choose to check our emails while we're away from work. We adults get questions like, do you want to follow your passion and risk poverty? Or do you want to be sensible and get a well-paying job that might set you up for success? We adults might get asked, do you want to stay committed to that job or that marriage or that life or those beliefs that aren't working for you? Or do you want to take a possibly catastrophic risk and blow it all up? We get asked, do you want to give over your healthcare choices to some faceless insurance adjuster? Or do you want to waste away in line at some socialist clinic? Do you want to live in a police state chock full of guns? Or do you want to live in some crime-ridden dystopia? Do you want to shut down and fiercely protect our borders? Or do you want to let gangs and cat-eating migrants run loose in our country? Do you want to be safe? Or do you want to be nice? Just like with the two positive choices some parents now give to their children, the choices we adults so often face are, in a way, an illusion. While the two positive choices approach happens to be the latest parenting fad, this is, as today's reading reminds us, a very old approach to control. An approach that every empire has always used. Questions that quietly condition our imaginations and subtly patrol our behaviors, so that at the end of the day, we adults make sure to do what we're told. These are questions that imitate choice, but these questions in reality are suggestions. They are instructions. They are, in reality, commands. Be rational. Be responsible. Be productive. Be logical, respectable. Be controllable. What made Jesus so dangerous in his own time, and ever since people have followed in the movement he began, is that Jesus managed to see through the illusions. He refused to let the so-called choices condition his imagination and control his behavior. Rather than see a woman who was accused of adultery and give in to the two choices society set before him, condemn her or break the law, Jesus asked a dangerously deep question. Has any of you here, standing ready to stone this woman, have any of you here not sinned too? Rather than give in to the choices to judge someone else's actions or to be overly permissive of sin, Jesus asked, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your friend's eye while ignoring the big old plank of wood in your own?" And then, time and time again, when Jesus encountered folks suffering one pain or another, rather than set down a narrow scope of choices outlining the ways he thought they needed help, Jesus asks what might be the second most dangerously deep question of all. What do you want? That's not a question parents would ask a small child before bed. The answer is too unpredictable. The answer could be anything, but it almost certainly would not be in the case of a child, "I want to brush my teeth and fall asleep." And so, because we want a certain outcome, we parents narrow the choices. We condition the imagination. We do what authority figures so often do in order to subtly control. But friends, the founder of our faith couldn't be controlled. He asked questions that opened up rather than closed down the imagination. He asked questions that called forth abundant thinking rather than obedient behaviors. He asked questions that were dangerously deep. And so, we here, we, the heirs of the movement that began with this radical questioner, our call is to forge a faith that is willing to keep up the tradition of asking dangerously deep questions. Our call in this time and in every time is to ask the questions that are inconvenient, the questions that are unruly, the questions that are unsettling, so unsettling, in fact, that we ourselves might get unsettled too. We are called to forge a faith that is daring enough to regularly ask ourselves dangerously deep questions like, am I happy? Questions like, whom am I hurting? Questions like that second most dangerously deep question of all, that one that came straight out of Jesus' mouth over and over again, what do I want really? You see, these questions call us to go down deep and to get real honest, to truly review our lives and how we are living them. They call us to take stock of what we're carrying and also what's missing. And they lead us to ask what might be the most dangerously deep question of all. After we've asked if we're happy and whom we're hurting and what do we want, our faith calls us to ask, given what I know, what am I going to do about it? The authorities, they don't want us asking that. Be they emperors or presidents or billionaires, be they parents or spouses or friends or even the authority figure that is our own inner critic. We're not supposed to ask these kinds of questions, these dangerously deep questions, because they can too easily lead to destruction. These kinds of questions too easily lead to blown up relationships and broken down patterns and leaving jobs and traveling to unexpected places and to refashioning what retirement looks like and to reimagining the entire world, because these are the kinds of questions, friends, that undo systems. These dangerously deep questions undo family systems and belief systems and financial systems and political systems and every other network that depends on authorities controlling people. But despite what you may have heard or been taught, this is what our faith is: deep and downright dangerous, because the freedom our faith promises, true and deep freedom, it's catching. It's contagious. It's liable to infect you if you stand too close to it. If you are near a person alive with passion and possibility, a person whose imagination is not hemmed in by cynicism and doubt, you yourself are liable to start asking those dangerously deep kinds of questions. And you yourself are liable to start undoing whole systems. And I believe that the authorities of Jesus' time were all too aware of this. And so they decided to try to stop the infection, to try to quell the liberating force of God by killing whom they thought was patient zero. But unfortunately for them, our faith calls up a kind of danger that survives death and crawls out of caves. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because Easter is next week. This week, I invite you, friends, to search your conscience. This week, I invite you to consider, what dangerously deep questions have I been avoiding? And this week, I invite you to consider, what might it be time to change? Whatever it is, however big or small, however global or personal, know that you aren't alone in that effort, because there are people who are on the path with you. People in this room, people in this life, and people beyond both. May it be so, and amen. We now worship God as we present our offerings.